Hi and welcome to the third part of this tutorial. This time we are starting to code our website, which we designed in the second part of this tutorial. If you haven't checked this out, I recommend to do this first. Otherwise, let's start. Alright, I already started. I created a basic HTML file with a head and a body. Then I'm importing Bootstrap version 4.5. I also import the family, the font family which we used in the designs, which is Nonito. I'm also created a basic style CSS. I'm not going fancy here with some Sass or anything else, so that everyone who just knows basic HTML and CSS can also follow this tutorial. Then down here it's basically just jQuery, Popper.js, which is used by Bootstrap as well. So that's the beginner template for Bootstrap. So I think we can already start and take a look at the design. All right, let's take a look at our last design. I haven't changed here anything, but still I think I should improve it when we code. So let's start with the navigation here. For that, we said that we want to have a font on the right side and 3 anchor links. So this is a one-pager. So if you click portfolio, we should scroll down to the section portfolio here. Yeah, so let's start with this one and see what Bootstrap has here. But before we do that, we know that we want to have a header. And in this header, we need some kind of a navigation. I'm not very familiar with Bootstrap, but what I know that they having always container classes, and within that container classes, they are using columns and rows, or rows and columns. So we want to have here a container, which takes the full width. So it should be a fluid container. It also should stick to the top, right? So we take this sticky top class from Bootstrap, which allows us that if we scroll down, if we scroll down the container, it will stick to the top of the browser. And then also we want to have this background color of the color palette we chose. In here, I basically will have something like background colors. Let's say I will put all the background colors in here, and I try to use BAM. Yeah, you can read more of BAM down in the description. I will link the official BAM page where everything is explained how this works there. All right, so we want to have this as a background color, and it should be this one. Let's add a hashtag, and there we go. Let's save it. Then in our navigation, we would need a predefined navigation from Bootstrap, and Bootstrap is offering here navbars or navs. Navs are just basically links, and navbars are basically links with the full-blown stuff we want. So let's take this one. It already has the nav, so we can get rid of that. All right, then we don't need this big light here, so let's get rid of that as well. Here we want to state div overflow is a placeholder, and we don't need this form. But what we need is, let's see if we actually can get such a list here from Bootstrap as well. So here we can take just the list, what we talked about earlier, a list of links, which we would need here. And we don't need this active state. This is something we can add later, maybe. So the first thing we wanted to show off was the portfolio. Then we wanted to have the about section, and as the last section we wanted to have the contact. So we don't need this one at all, and also we want those pushed to the right. So the brand or the name of the site should be on the left side, and all the links should be on the right side. So to do this, we just use the justify content and class from Bootstrap. And this will push this element and all the content in it to the right side, or to the end of the container navbar. All right, then let's take a look. And there we already have the navigation. Yeah, no background color because we didn't apply our background green here. So if we apply it, we get it nice. Then our links should be white and not blue as they currently are. So let's go in and name this text colors. So let's take text color and then say white, and here we just take the white. All right, and then let's add this class at the end to each link. All right, and let's take a look, and there we go, blue colors. And then we already see on the hovering effect, we get this blue again, but actually I would like to have an underlining here. So what we would need to do is we need to extend our selector here. And with that, we just copy it for now. So we want it to be white on the hovering effect. So let's add hover. We want to have it white on the active state. And it should also be white on the focus state. And then we want to also make it underline modifier, and here we just say text decoration and do the underline. Nice. So if we add this here as well, hover underline, and hover underline, then we should be well set. And of course this needs to be on the hover state. There we go. Okay, then this is still on a dark color, but this is probably the reason because we are not using the right element here. So if we use the navbar dark from Bootstrap, if we use the dark navigation from Bootstrap, then Bootstrap will turn this text here into a light font, so into white basically. So we have this already set. Also, we can quickly check if our import of the font is working. So actually everything should be in the Nunito font, and we can quickly check on the computed state here if this is Nunito, and it's not. And why? Of course, because we are not applying Nunito or CSS. So let's add some space at the top and add a general section here. And this one should go into the HTML. Yeah, I guess HTML is enough as a selector. And then we add the font family and just call it Nunito. That should be enough. If we save it again, I guess the font already changed and didn't. So we need to apply it to the body to override the default from Bootstrap. Okay, and now one still missing thing is that we don't want to have the navigation and title of the page pushed that far from each other. We want them to have a fixed width. So to achieve this, we have this container fluid here, but the navigation itself should stick into like, should have a maximum width, and only the background color should extend to the full size. So if we add a normal container here, fluid container, then our elements within that container, so here's the fluid container, as you can see, it expands to the whole width, and this container has a maximum width of 1140 pixels, which is nice. Okay, so that's it already for the header and navigation. So let's add a main section to our DOM, and also let's just add the footer section as well, so that we don't forget it in the end. And in here we want to have 3 sections basically. We want to have, no, 4, I'm sorry. So we need the landing screen, we need the portfolio, we need the about section, and we also need the contact form. So what we could do, we could either add already here a container to the main section. And then we can write a div, and within that container we now need a row. And within that row we need some columns. So, and if we switch quickly to the design, what we need are basically 2 columns. We would need 1 column for this section and 1 column for the illustration. So to get this done, we using the Bootstrap classes. And in this one, in the first one, so left to right, we want to have the, let's call it CTA section. And here we want to have our illustration. Within that CTA section, it's kind of simple because we want to have an H1. Below that, we want to have the paragraph, which has the text inside, and below that we need a button to, yeah, so that basically we can click somewhere. All those elements are already available here, so we can take the button. So as you already saw, that this button will be now blue, which is a bummer because our button in the design should be pinkish, I would say. So we need this color. So how do we know what to style? I would say let's take a look at what we got, inspect the element, and see what Bootstrap is applying. So we have a border color which is blue, and we have the background color which is also blue. And the selector here is already pretty specific. So just defining the background color on a button wouldn't override the styles. And I can show this to you. All right, so we need a new background color, and let's call it pink. I'm not sure if this is a pink background color, but anyway, for me it's so. If we would apply this one just to button, then as you can see, as soon as I hover the button, I get the blue again. And if I apply now the hovering situation here as well. So let's add this to the active state and the focus state as well. Active and focus. Okay, and then we also need the border column. So this is not a background color and also not a text color. To be fair, so normally I would, now let's do it. Let's be consistent. That's the most important thing. Border color pink. So this one would be the border color and it should be pink. And this is also true for all those. All right, and then let's reload. It's still not working. There is the, yeah, there it is. This primary button not disabled active. Let's copy this pseudo selector, but we would need the same for the border as well. Okay, so why does this still have a black shadow border color? Still has the border, of course. I didn't add the border color to the element. So what should be applied here? Nothing. All right, and then we want to have the hover state, so we want to lighten up the background, I guess, so that we got some kind of a hover state. We could also underline the text here, but I think if a whole button gets a little bit lighter is the better indicator. To do this, we just take the same classes here. We would need to split this for now. This should only happen on the default state, and everything else should happen on the hovering state. And here we need to have a filter, and this is a brightness filter, and let's increase it with 120%. So 100% is the default, and we increase it basically by 20%. So let's see, this looks better, but the hovering color is back border color. Of course it is, because we are not changing it. So we also need to duplicate this one. Now it's working. This looks fine, I guess, maybe too decent, but I think it's fine. Okay, so what else do we need? We need to have the paragraph filled with I'm a web developer and UX designer. So let's paste this in here as well. And then I build awesome experiences. Exactly, we need a break here. And the body H1. We want to have the H1 bigger. I think we said the font size should be 64 pixels, if I remember it correctly. And the font weight, we wanted to have it bold, exactly like that. Also, this text should get like a light gray or dark gray. So let's take this to the text colors here and color gray. color. And the hashtag is missing. Saving and add this here. Whoop. Text color gray. Okay, and then we should, looks already good. But now our padding or margin here is a little bit offset. Okay, so I also know that Foundation at least has those helper classes to add margins and paddings to elements, which isn't probably the best way, but it's very easy. And for a landing page like this, you can't destroy the design on other levels because you only have one. Whoops, you only have one design here. So let's take a look. Spacing, and it does have property side. So M is for margin and P is for padding. Then we top, bottom, left, right. So what do we want to have? We need some more space between the heading and the paragraph, and we need some more space between the paragraph button. So let's add some button and top margin on the paragraph. So margin bottom 4, margin top 5. Test it the other way. So the subheading here should be more attached to the text or the heading, and the button can be a little bit lower. Okay, so next up is our illustration, but before that, create another class which is important, and I call it height 100. And this is a general class I introduce. And this is basically taking the height to 100 of the viewport height. So our first landing screen is always 100, takes the full height of the viewport, and we want to have a minimum height here. Let's say 550 pixels. Like that. Okay, so through this illustration, Figma offers a really cool option here. So you can, if you created illustrations like this or inputted any elements, you can just right click them and say copy paste and copy as SVG. If you do that, you can just go in here and you do your code, paste it into it, and you got your illustration already in there, which is really awesome. So 2 things you probably notice now is that this text should be on the, shouldn't be on the top of this illustration, but in the middle of it. And also you already can think of it, item center it's called. We can use the align item center class of Bootstrap, which will center all those elements. This column here is now as height as this one. And since we are using this class, all those elements will be pushed to the middle of it, which will have the effect that those elements are vertical aligned with the illustration. So as you can see, we already have somehow at least the layout of the, what we wanted. Now what we need is this illustration is too close to the text. This needs to be pushed more over to right. Let's test this. I would go with the text right because we have a lot of space. I don't add the patterns now. I will do this at the end. Let's build the layout first and then add the patterns. But basically it's not very hard to do. I will show it with one pattern and then we are good to go. Okay, so what do we also need? We need the separator here. So let's go in here. We need a separator. And the separator is, I would do it with just an empty div. If If you know a better way, let me know. I know there's this HR, which is a horizontal rule. But I'm not a fan of that one, to be honest. I can't really explain to you why, but okay, in this separator, yeah, let's put it also into the general one here. Separator. This should be always have a margin top of 150 pixels and a margin bottom of 150 pixels. I know you could also write it like this, margin, it's probably better this way, 0. So it will be top and bottom is 150 pixels and left and right is 0. Then what we need as well is an after element. And a width of 70%. And there we go, we have a separator. So now we have the 100 pixels on top and the bottom, which allows us that we always have some white space between those sections. Then the next section is our portfolio. Here we used H2, or this should be an H2 because we're using the H1 here. So this should be the H2 paragraph and then this element. I saw that actually Bootstrap is using or is having the component carousel. Watch the second part to know how you pronounce carousel correct. And here it's a pretty neat carousel because you get some information. So you can add here a title and you get some information of it. And yeah, then you can have some elements here. So instead of the smaller images, I would use the carousel. And for that, let's just copy the code here. First, let's create a div. Actually, we could also use sections here because those are sections. So we can actually use also the section tag here because we are actually creating sections of our one pager. So for HTML5, this is actually better to use. Then we need a row. Yeah, within that row, we need our H2, which says portfolio. Then we add an ID to this separator, portfolio. You know later on why I do this here. Then in this portfolio, we need also a column, div column. And we need this column this time not to separate it into two sections. We need the column because it adds padding to the left and the right. That everything is on one line here. We need to put everything into one column, at least one column. Within that column, we add the paragraph. And here we just copy the text for now here. That's lorem ipsum. Place it here. Then we already know that we need the text color gray. The H2 doesn't need any styling, I guess, except for the font size. We took 48 pixels. Should still be bold. That should be fine. Looks already cool. Nice. And then let's add the carousel. There we go. Okay, and in here, of course, we don't need this should be the showcases. Okay, then we have our, yeah, here's the first slide or first showcase. Okay, the source, we need this one. I can recommend for if you just working on a template or something, I can recommend placeholder.com, which gives you images in the size you want them to have. So you just need to copy this URL. So 1150 to 400 pixels. And then you get basically this image in the exact size you need it. And with that, you just add the source here for now. And if you do so, you have a pretty cool slider. So this could be our showcase area. And again, we would need some bottom and some top paddings. So MT5, let's see. That's too much. So the top should be again on 4. That's better. And that's also how it kind of looks in the design. That's it for this section already. So let's continue. Let's copy our separator and place it here. Too many spaces. Okay. This one is not portfolio, but about. So same thing here, section. Within that section, we need again a row and a column. So div row and div column. Within here, again, we need an H2. That H2 should be the about section, and it should, I don't know, this, if I remember correctly, yeah. So now we have the column left and right. Start here with the row. Then we don't need this div container. I can't think of, I'm not too deep into Bootstrap to know a better solution now. If you know a better solution, let me know in the comments below. Okay, so we have the row here. Then we could add the column for the heading as a separate column. And then below that, we have a column which is 6 cells and another one which is also 6 cells. And for the one column, it's this image where we can copy the SVG again. And for the other one, it's a very long text. So a paragraph. And because text is this dark or gray, great. Let's copy it from here. Paste it. Let's see what we did. Portfolio about looks actually quite good. We just need to add here again some margin and padding. But this time we need to add this either on this div or at this div. I would put it onto the heading div for the simple reason if you want to change the order of here, your layout wouldn't break. So margin bottom text was 4. That's it for the about section already. Of course, you would now enter, like you would add an actual image of yourself in here. I don't do this now. The contact section, the last section of this landing page. Here we would need the classic layout. So we need the column, and within that column we go with a heading which says contact. We also forgot the separator. And this says contact. Introducing paragraph, which is also a lorem ipsum. And then we need a form. As already said last time on the design part, I already said that I'm not really liking this layout of the form here because I think this green is, I don't know, it's not looking good. I will see what Bootstrap offers us. And they offer forms, of course. And I think the forms are actually pretty good. They have round edges, they have labels, everything is there what you need. So we can add form from here, maybe a 2-column row. Yeah, it's also available. Okay, let's start with this one. So we have a form with 2 columns, first name, last name. Above that, we would need a form row. There it is, email, label email. So let's copy the labels here. Then this is the email. Okay, so we have the contact form, which looks a little bit weird. Alright, so there's some margin padding missing, and this is because we are not using a form group apparently. Because only this will add form group, only this will add the padding. Okay, and then we need some text, a text area field, which is also in here. That's it. Let's take it to 8 rows. And then last but not least, we also need a submit button. There we go. There's a submit button for the form. And also for that one, we need the background color pink. Contact me now. And then we need also the button. Is it block? Yeah, it is block. Okay, contact me now button. Contact me. Then I think this whole thing looks now too big and too wide for our layout we choose. So I think it would make sense to have it more, yeah, maybe right aligned, but yeah, only half the cells, or maybe 7 or 8. We could add a class column and column 7 maybe here. See what happens. Get some padding on the left, which is not what we want. So my idea would be to align this here to the left and then maybe add an illustration on the right side, or we could also center it. In this case, I would first add the footer to see, because we can't scroll further down here, to see how it really acts in the complete layout. So in the footer, we need some links, and to add some links, we just need the navs, and I would say we just center them. And yeah, the footer for this landing page isn't that important because yeah, we just could link them to the portfolios links, which we already have. Contact. Again, the last one we don't need. All right, then this should look pretty shitty. It does. We don't need the active one, but we need the text color. Yeah, what color do we choose for the footer? We could either go with, again, this green color here, the yellow color, a gray color, or this red color. Two things or two colors I wouldn't choose. This is the red pinkish color here, because this is our CTA color. And if we would use it now for the footer, the button here wouldn't be sticking out anymore. The yellow color on this size would look weird, especially with that green. So I guess what we could or should use is maybe this subtle gray here. Maybe the gray from this text. So we can reuse that one. So first of all, we would need to create our background class. Let's just copy that one. Call it gray. And add the color tag. Perfect. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. It's not too prominent. And if we then add the text color white here, it also looks pretty neat. Then we link also to portfolio, about, and contact here. Already have the ID for that one in here, and hover class, hover underline, and hover underline. Okay. And as you already could see, we are also missing some padding, and so here we want to add padding. Oops. We want to add a class padding bottom 4, padding top 5. No, it was the other way around. I'm always doing it the wrong way. Correct, but the background color should also be on the footer element. And then it's also working. Yeah, I'm not sure if I like this one or if we just add the same. Yeah, this one looks better. And then we also add a margin top 5 here. Then I add my own style here to the footer. And this one is margin top, let's say 100 pixels. Could also make it 150 as we did for the separator. And see how this looks, and it looks actually pretty good. So what else? Yeah, back to the form. I think the right form, maybe we should make it like the about section and have it on the right side, and on the left side we add some illustration later on. So let's add the class of that one in here. Get rid of this div container. All right. So after we aligned the code here again, we should check it out, and now it fits into this layout. And now we're adding the text color gray, and then again some margin bottom 5 and margin top 4. And there we go. So the form looks pretty good. The footer looks good. We have the contact and everything else. So I guess everything actually looks pretty good and doesn't really need anything extra. But for example, here around this one, I would also add the frame we created for the images. So I would add this one here as well. And then here at least in the header, I would add those patterns, and here another illustration. Since we are already, since this video is probably already taking half an hour or so, I will show you how I would add the this frame for the slider and how I would add those patterns here. An illustration, it would be the same process as for this one. For the patterns, let's start with the patterns here at the top so that we get the first area finished. So what I would do now is I would go in here, select the element and do the same with the copying SVG. Then I would scroll up here, and then I would create some containers for the elements. So you click the element you want. Basically we have three different kinds of elements. We have this big triangle, we have a medium-sized triangle, and we have those small triangles. And the same thing for the plus sign. We have this big plus sign, we have a medium plus sign, and those small plus. Yeah, and the rest is repeating itself. Okay, so I create this here as an illustration, and I call it pattern because it's a pattern in the background. And in this class, we are going to add some styles. So let's open up a new category here, illustrations. Illustration pattern. Yeah, basically it's always good to copy this text so you don't have any typos. Okay, and in here we need a position not relative but absolute, so that we can position this container wherever we want. Then we also need the set index and set this to 0, so that those patterns are always in the background. And then of course we also need the opacity of .3. You could also write it like that. And then in here you could add a inline style, and then I would place the first element, which is this big triangle, and left. Let's see where it is. It's very off. We also need here on our container, we need a position relative. Maybe you know that, but the position absolute is always searching the parent element with the position relative, and based on that it will position the element here, or itself basically, so that we position the absolute element based on the container here. I always put to the next parent the position relative. All right, and then we are at 27, which is 2 less. In our design, this triangle was a little bit behind the illustration, so let's go with 30. And as we already can see, I did apply the set index 0 to the illustration pattern, but I haven't applied a set index for the illustration itself. So what I need to do is a set index 1 here, and then the pattern is moving to the background. Since we probably need this and some other elements as well, I just create a general class again, set index, let's call it top, and here we place the set index to 1. Okay, and then we have the first element. All right, so as you can see, I added all those illustrations or patterns to the background, and now you can see it's already a little bit better. Then why did I add the IDs to the sections or to the separators? This is the reason, because if you click an ID, it will always jump to the very top of the element. And since we have a sticky navigation, if we add the ID to the portfolio, it would stop somewhat here, which isn't ideal because we don't see the heading then. So that's why I add it to the separator. And if you click it, the separator is disappeared behind the header, and the user can see the portfolio. Same for the about section and the contact section. I don't add the patterns here to the other elements. What I will do now is to show how to add the background pattern to this one. So what we do is we copy somewhat this class and call it illustration background image. We don't need the opacity in this one. That's why we create a new class. Then we go to the portfolio, and out of this div, which ends actually here, we create another div with the illustration background image class. That didn't work. There we go. And then we are copying. I already did that. We don't waste time here. Copy paste, copy the SVG of that one and paste it here. So then we have in here, we basically have now the image of that one, but now we want to push it, the background of that one. As with the others, we go to the style and do the top. I don't know what it is, nearly. There's also a set index problem, so we add the set index top class to this one, and now we have it in the background. And then the slider is a little bit too big for this one, so we need to reduce the size. Okay, to achieve this, we go in here. That's the carousel, and then we say, I don't know, padding. So 40 pixels on the right side and 2 pixels on the left side. 163 pixels on the top. Let's attach those values. Here we open up one last carousel overrides. One last section. And here we add a padding, which is then on the right side we have 2 pixels, bottom 0, and on the left side we had 14 pixels. So let's apply that, and there we go, we have it centralized. Now, what's still ugly is that we have the edges are always with a radius, but in the carousel it's not the case. So let's see where we have to apply the radius. Carousel inner, border radius 10 pixels. There we go. Reload. That's the image we need. Perfect. This is basically how you can get started with a simple landing page. I'm not sure how much time we needed for this one now. I guess it was like maybe 1 or 2 hours to come up with that layout as it is now. Of course, this needs still some love, so I would need to add some patterns to the single sections and a final illustration on this one. But this won't cost that many time. I would say maybe 20 minutes. So I hope you liked those tutorial sessions. Let me know in the description if I should do more video wireframe, if I should do more videos of the actual designs or more of the coding part. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel. This would help me a lot. Also, if you want to see more videos like about CSS, HTML or JS, let me know. And otherwise, have a nice day and see you in the next one.